Great. Okay. So welcome everyone to a SimGHOSTS.org presentation webinar. This free webinar is being provided through SimGHOSTS.org in our GoToMeeting session. We're very excited today promoting some new webinar features that we're going to be doing through the website, not only for subscribers, but for the general community for some of these events. Our first one here today is with Valen Anderson. There she is there in the picture of the announcement that we posted, also posted on healthysimulation.com. I first met Valen when I was sponsored by Simulab to travel to the North Shore University Health System in the area of Chicago kind of area. We had an opportunity to check out how their center was really utilizing the trauma man in order for a lot of the different types of training that they were going through there. And Valen was there kind of helping to demonstrate the learning opportunities there with some of our other colleagues. So we then met again at SimGHOSTS 2013. And we noticed that later on from our keynote speaker, Timothy Clapper, that he found Valen's Prezi presentation online. And so Ryan, our event chair from SimGHOSTS, got in touch with her and asked her if she wouldn't mind sharing what she learned with at SimGHOSTS 2013 with the online community, as well as answer maybe some questions that people might have about the event, so you can get a better perspective about some of the things going on with us in terms of what we're doing there. So that being said, you can learn more about simghost.org, obviously, at the website. SimGHOSTS stands for the Gathering of Healthcare Simulation Technology Specialists, and it's a special hands-on training event that's been happening annually. There's also some online resources in terms of recorded content from previous meetings, but it's specifically geared towards the technical operation of simulation technology. So anyone who's responsible for the operation of that simulation lab technology should definitely check out simghost.org and learn a little bit more about what we're doing. And obviously, you're doing some of that here today by sitting down for this particular webinar. So just let me briefly introduce Valen while I turn over the screen to her. Once again, I've muted everyone here for the time being while we provide this presentation. That way we won't have competing microphones. I'm going to stop showing my screen and make Valen the presenter and introduce her. So she's a simulation technician at North Shore Center for Simulation and Innovation in Evanston, Illinois. It's a state-of-the-art 13,000 square foot facility accredited by the Society of Simulation and Healthcare, American College of Surgeons, and the American Society of Anesthesiologists, and is a teaching affiliate of the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine, if I'm saying that correctly. She joined the NCSI team in the summer of 2012 and is responsible for supporting manikin-based, task trainer-based, and hybrid simulation activities in the simulation center, as well as the hospital. She operates an expansive selection of manikin simulators, as well as the audiovisual recording system from Beeline Medical. Other responsibilities include communication with faculty to determine program details, working with vendors for upgrades and troubleshooting, and developing scenarios and curricula for the center. She attended the 2013 meeting, which was held in San Antonio at the Allied and Nursing Health Building at the San Antonio College. And we're very honored and happy to have her sharing today. So again, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat room, and then we'll go ahead and open back up the microphones at the end of the event. So welcome, Valen.
Thank you so much, Lance. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. So today I'm going to be talking about my experience at SimGHOSTS 2013. I'll go over the things I learned, the different workshops I attended, connections that I made, and my overall experience at the conference, which was fantastic. So to begin, if anyone doesn't know, SimGHOSTS, and the conference was hosted in San Antonio, which is, if you've never been, a beautiful place. That's a picture of the Riverwalk, which our hotel was conveniently located at. So it was nice with all of the SimTechs there. We all got to participate in the workshops together and the conference, and then go out for dinner and drinks and really get to know one another and connect there's a picture of the hotel, El Tropicana, which was wonderful. And finally, the host facility, which was the San Antonio College of Nursing, it has its own sim lab, very expansive and beautiful, just a great venue to host the conference. So I guess from here we will dive into my Prezi. Just as an overview, this is a sample of what I experienced at the conference. There were over 45 different sessions held by a variety of speakers and vendors, and so I'm just, in this presentation, I'm just going to explain a few of the workshops that I took. To begin, the keynote speaker was Timothy Clapper, who is a very brilliant man. He started the conference talking about team steps, which I don't know if anyone has heard about, but it's been around for a while. But his application of the concept was to empower simulation technology specialists, which is us as the SimTech. So he talked about the conflict theory of medical errors. I won't get into too much detail here, but just how conflict can arise with the conflict theory. Conflict arises with people, with themselves. It arises with others. It arises with your environment, and a combination of all of the above. And so in appropriately handling the conflict and having collaborative learning in a safe environment, we can create the best simulation experience possible while working together. So another thing that I'd like to add going into this is that SimGHOSTS has made all of these resources available. I know that you can actually watch Timothy Clapper's keynote lecture online, so please go and do that if you're interested. He is far greater speaker than I am, and covers a great amount of topics. So, and lastly, as the SimTech, I know sometimes we feel like we're behind the scenes and not necessarily a part of the simulation because we're just operating it, but what Dr. Clapper talked about was how everyone is empowered. So as the people operating Sim, we are also empowered to contribute to the safety and the success and the comfortability of it all. So what I loved, which is catchy, kind of cheesy slogan that Dr. Clapper used, was that we're not saying, I gotcha, in a simulation. We're not trying to catch people and say, hey, you know, you messed up, we got you, I gotcha. But we're saying, I got you back. So we're trying to look out for each other. We're trying to look out for the betterment of healthcare, for the hospitals, for the universities, rather than trying to catch people making mistakes, which ultimately will create a more comfortable environment for people to open up and learn in. So that was Timothy Clapper. I highly recommend people to go watch his lecture. And next I will dive into Laerdal. So I attended 2 very informative workshops by Laerdal. There were a variety of Laerdal field service technicians there. So the first lecture was Advanced SimMan 3G Programming. I'd like to preface this saying that there were also beginning, intermediate, and advanced programming classes, so that whatever sim lab you're at, whatever level you're at, and whatever you're familiar with, there was pretty much a seminar for everybody. I chose the advanced because I work primarily with SimMan 3G in Laerdal. So some of the things that we went over in this workshop was scenario building. So as a SimTech, at least for me, I feel like you have 100 things to do at once when you're running Sim. So the beauty of building a scenario and programming it is anyone really can run it. So you can set it up, and ideally someone that's not as familiar with the software can still follow along and click the learner actions as they go by, and the simulation will progress accordingly. We also learned about trends and handlers, which I had some familiarity with, but really just learning how they work, how how you can utilize them best in your sim and in your scenario building. And lastly, advanced software operation. So really understanding what's going on with all the different facets that Laerdal has to offer in its programs, and utilizing it to the most of its ability. And it was nice, the workshop, it was in a computer lab in the SAC building, so we were all able to have our own computer to log on. We built a scenario together and went through, and then you know, we all contributed different things, and it was a great hands-on experience. So the next workshop with Laerdal was advanced hardware configuration, which when I signed up for the class, I was a little intimidated because as a techie, I'm used to certain wires and hardware, but configuration, I don't know, it seemed pretty daunting. And when I walked in the room, I'll show you some pictures in a second, but they actually had on site a SimMan 3G and a SimMan Essential. And this is just for the Laerdal workshop. I'll get into the other vendors as well. But some topics discussed were robot assembly. So they actually took apart and disassembled a SimMan 3G and a SimMan Essential in order just to show us the inner workings, how we as a sim tech could troubleshoot things without having to call tech support and, you know, have them ask us all these questions, really just pinpointing the issue and understanding the inner workings of the mannequins. Similarly, the speaker talked about robot maintenance. So just to give you some examples, he talked about replacement parts. He actually demonstrated how to replace the lungs on SimMan, how to replace the eye module. So for 3Gs, you know, their pupils dilate, they blink, they can cry. So if something goes wrong, he just explained how to remove the eye module to send that in instead of having to spend the money sending your entire mannequin in. And he also went over IV assembly with maintenance. So I'm not sure if anyone uses SimMan 3G, but he does have IV ports and fluid ports. And it was very helpful to just kind of get the inside scoop with those. And system diagnostics. So the field engineer talked about different updates that you can do yourself for SimMan 3G, as well as calibrations for his compressor, for his pupil dilation, and for his flow meter with his IV port. So overall, there were a significant amount of tips and tricks given that I learned and tried to write down everything I heard, including battery management, little tricks like airway lubricant. It can clog the esophagus of the mannequin, so the trick is to spray the lubricant on the ET tube instead of down the mannequin's throat. And then another thing was to flush the fluid system in 3G routinely, quarterly, with 70% alcohol and water, just to make sure that if you're pushing dextrose or saline that you don't get any salt or sugar clogs in your mannequins, because those will plug up and then obviously create some issues. So some pictures I took with my smartphone, so pardon the quality. This was one of the field service engineers replacing SimMan's lungs, which I actually, I'm not gonna lie, I did this like 1 month ago. So the conference was in August, and last month an anesthesiologist noticed we had a leak, that there was pressure problems, and anyway, so I went in and replaced them myself, thanks to SimGHOSTS in this workshop. This next picture is the inner workings of SimMan 3G's arm. So that's actually where that's his IV arm. So that's where he showed us the flow meters and how all of that is put together so that you can avoid spilling fluids into the mechanical parts of your mannequin, and just how to deal with that, how to take it apart, and how to look at it and troubleshoot. So that was very cool. And just a picture I took of another, actually this was the manager, service engineer, that was explaining the stomach and torso assembly. So that's a SimGHOST he has taken apart. And I'm pretty sure that these PowerPoints as well are available for people to use as a resource. And also at the end of this workshop, the service engineers kind of gave us another inside scoop about a preventative maintenance certification class that Laerdal offers. So if these opportunities, there were so many opportunities that came up during SimGHOSTs. Opportunities with different vendors, opportunities with fellow SimTechs, and in this case, if anyone's interested, I know that Laerdal does offer a 3-day course that certifies you to perform preventative maintenance and order the parts and do it yourself. So contact me after if you're interested. So for each workshop, I tried to implement goals for my simulation lab, but I figured I'd present them for you guys anyway because they might be relevant. So my first goal was to program all of our scenario algorithms for each case on each computer. So we have a variety of workstations, and I figured if I could program all of our scenarios, especially those like ACLS and PALS and scenarios that we run day-to-day for medical students or whatnot, that I would have less of a burden in running it and setting everything up, that I could just plug it in, have someone else, an assistant or somebody, be able to help out with that. So that's a goal that we're working towards implementing. Next, on a similar note, would be to teach our instructors and our staff how to run a scenario from start to finish using both a pre-programmed algorithm as well as what we call on the fly. So the nice thing about this is, I don't know about you guys, we have a very beautiful, expansive lab. We've got great funding, and we do have a few SimTechs on board, but even with that, it does get hectic from time to time, so at least having an instructor or someone else that knows how to do these things makes it easy if you need to troubleshoot something else while you're running sim. So that's another goal that we're aiming toward. And lastly, to perform weekly preventative maintenance on each manikin. Simple things, kind of the tips and tricks I mentioned. The battery, for example, you want to let that deplete actually completely, just like your cell phone, just like any other device. You want the battery to die and then recharge it, because otherwise you are actually affecting the battery life itself. And little things like putting baby powder under and with the lungs so that you don't get that friction rub with the skin. So just making sure that the mannequins are clean, that they're operating correctly, their fluids are running correctly, all of that. So that was Laerdal. Like I said before, I use primarily Laerdal mannequins. However, at the conference, they had these same exact workshops for both CAE or Medi products and Gamard. So there was actually two other computer labs that were also hosting beginning, intermediate, and advanced workshops for both running Medi and running Gamard and Laerdal. So it pretty much, the conference has something for everybody, and for whatever lab. So we will move on to live theater, which I love because in high school, actually way back when, I did a lot of theater. I loved theater. And then I decided to pursue science and technology for college and then in a career. But the beautiful thing about simulation is it ties so much of theater in with science and technology. So I was very, very excited and happy to see that one of the workshops at SimGHOSTs, they have something for everybody. One of them was indeed a live theater workshop. Excuse me. So this workshop, we did some fun exercises. We actually got to stage and set and make a list of props for a simulation that we would do for a scenario. We're each given a scenario like somebody coming in to get checked out for, you know, I don't know. I can't think clinically right now. But anyway, it was fun. We got to interact with each other. We got to go over a script. We got to lay out a scenario. So we went over setting, staging, and props, and how, sorry, let me go back here. So how important those are in terms of promoting success, but not becoming a distraction. So you don't want to go overboard with your props. I know in our lab, we love what we call the fluff. It's so fun to put different wigs on the mannequins, put glasses on them, a tattoo sleeve, just give them some personality, and just set the stage so that the learner can suspend their disbelief more. So they come into the room and they're not looking at, you know, whatever you want to call it, a doll, a robot, a mannequin, but something more human-like. And on the same note, this workshop talked about standardized patients and how, as wonderful as it is that we have simulators and robots for the different learners to practice on, there's also something very special about walking into a room and having an actual person there to communicate with. So if your lab can have SPs, we talked about, you know, the cost of SPs, the time it takes, where to find SPs, all of that information was provided, which is very nice. I mean, tons of resources, which leads me to also Confederate. So using actors in your sim. This is also something that I love that we do in our lab. We have our staff here, like sim techs and our nurses and even doctors. We'll all take turns stepping into the sim as either the concerned sister or the daughter or the brother. And it just adds, you know, it mixes things up. You get a real person in there. You really get to emphasize communication if that's an objective in your sim. Again, everything you're doing with this is to promote success, not be a distraction. It should be directly linked with what your objectives are in this sim. However, sometimes distractions can be an objective. It depends what you're trying to achieve. So the goals for this would be, 1, have a props person. I don't know if your lab has wigs and glasses and earrings and tattoo sleeves and whatnot, but our collection keeps building. We have bandanas, we have glasses for the holidays and Mardi Gras beads, and it's nice to keep those organized because they, you know, it's pretty awkward when you're running a sim and somebody opens up a drawer in the crash cart and there's like an old man wig in there, which has happened to us. So just keeping those all together and keeping track of those is nice. Okay, next. Oh, thrift store bargains. So for a lot of EMS sims or ER sims, excuse me, one of the objectives might be to take the clothes off the patient. They come in, it's a burn victim, it's somebody that was in trauma. It's nice to actually have a big t-shirt on them or a button down so that they actually have to get trauma shears and cut it off. Or if it goes in with their character, you can just find some great bargains, whether it's wigs, glasses, or clothing at thrift stores. So that was a resource that was talked about. And lastly, communication objectives. Like I said, all of this is to be used to benefit the sim. So whether you're trying to distract the learner with the dramatic sister, whether you're trying to set the stage to be simple so that they walk in and they're not like, oh wait, what are these? What's this on here? Am I supposed to be using this? They walk in and they know, okay, this is, you know, it's clear to them. And just having communication objectives, because so much of healthcare is communication, team steps, all about communication. So the more we can integrate that into our sim, it's not just the skills that we're trying to teach, it's also the communication that's happening in the simulation. So if you have that as an objective, then it's easier to emphasize it, debrief on it, and have that laid out. So that is live theater. And next was IT and innovative technologies. So there were a few great IT workshops. I can't get into too much detail here. It could be its own webinar. But there was so many things I learned. Just to go back to basics, I know that there are different levels of sim labs everywhere, all around the world. Maybe it's in a closet, maybe it's a huge thousands of square foot space, but regardless, there are a few prerequisites for a successful sim lab. Excuse me. The first is network infrastructure. So whether you're in a hospital or a university or wherever you may be, it's nice to have this because it provides your background, you know, something to build upon. It's your foundation. Ooh. Similarly, network storage. So you need something. I luckily, working in the hospital, we have what's called our shared folders. The hospital has a cloud system. But if you don't have that, there's other technologies that were discussed at the workshop, including Dropbox or an NAS drive, which you can buy for, I think it's $150 per terabyte. But they're all different options. You want to have storage because even if you're working out of a closet as a sim lab, you will grow and expand, believe me. And lastly, this is a pretty obvious one. Who lives without the internet anyways? Is internet access. So with these three things, that's the basis for your IT sim lab. You really want all those things in order to build upon and grow. And then I just wanted to include this. This is one very interesting thing that was also mentioned at the conference. And I took this right off the Spiceworks website, but if you can read it, it says, need a way to wrangle all your devices, software, cloud services, and even users with the network inventory and mapping, network monitoring and alerting, license management, troubleshooting, reporting, and much more. Spiceworks is the free IT management app with the tools you need to tackle your IT day. So it is what it sounds like. I encourage everyone to investigate this website. It is a wonderful resource. You can use it to trace tickets, repairs, keep track of things like your inventory. You can also keep track of your warranties, which is really handy, especially with these really expensive mannequins, with the growing sim lab, with all of, I don't know if you have things in storage. It's just a really great resource that's also free for you to just keep track of everything and help manage the plethora of devices and mannequins and simulators that you work with. So I encourage people to take a look at that. And then on to my goals for IT. And this is just a goal pretty much for everybody in the world right now, this green age, is less paper, more digital files. So just trying to move everything. We do have paper cases. We have paper labs for stimuli in the cases, but just trying to get everything digital, trying to have everything on your computer so that you're not wasting trees, and then you're able to share it electronically and store it easier. So that's a goal we're working towards. Next, similar to the mannequin maintenance, is IT weekly maintenance. So things like updates. Are you updating all of your computers so they have the latest browser, they have all the latest Flash, whatever it may be? You want to make sure that that you're updating everything and keeping track so it doesn't build up. Also inventory. I do a very thorough inventory every week. We have a variety of laptops and cameras, obviously our mannequins, and so just keeping track of that as well. I know sim labs are pretty secure spaces, but I mean, people borrow things, things get taken out, not put back away, misplaced, and you want to have everything together and know where it is and have it organized. And it's easier to keep track of that and say, oh, wait, I had this last Monday, rather than, wait, when did we even see that last? Like, you know, whether it's Sim Junior, SimPad, or even little things, you just want to keep track. And then file organization. So this goes for paper files, which we're going away from, but as well as electronic files, just so you're staying organized. All of your computers are synchronized. You have the same cases on every computer. Just making sure that it's universal. And then lastly, which I'm still working on because working in a corporation, Flash soundboard is blocked, but I encourage you guys to go out and create a Flash soundboard for what I was thinking was your more common courses like PALS or ACLS, or your more routine courses. Recording something like my cough that I have right now is nice. If you want to get like a really good Strider sound for lung sounds, or a little kid crying. I know that Laerdal, Medi, Gamard, they all come with pretty great soundtracks. But it's also nice to be able to create your own with a click of a button, be able to play that sound and have one less thing that you're trying to do. And then it can also be custom to a case. So it's a fun thing to try and work with. So that is IT. And that I'm just, again, I'm skimming the surface of a sample of what I was able to learn at the conference. There was so much. I mean, I have like a whole booklet of things that I tried to write down. So it was very, very informative. Next is Beeline Medical, which is the AV software that we use to record all of our simulations. So with Beeline, it's pretty simple in terms of recording your simulation and debriefing, but there's so much more to it that you can utilize. And if you've already bought in a software company like Beeline, then you really want to be able to make the most of it. So, for example, advanced scheduling. You can have multiple sessions within one event, multiple simulations. You have self-enrollment in courses, so you can actually send a notification to participants or link them to a video, or email them and say, hey, you've got this course coming up. And the reports and evaluation. So we're really trying to collect data in our lab, and Beeline does have this as a feature. So with the evaluations, you can actually assign a video session with an evaluation. So somebody can go back after the fact, watch the video, and evaluate how the participant did. And lastly is Zendesk. So for any Beeline users out there, Zendesk is a great resource if you have to look at common questions. Oh, sorry about that. Common questions or troubleshooting issues, or even if you just want to learn more about the features that they offer, check out Zendesk. And then also what was great about the conference was the vendors were all there to talk to face-to-face. So I've been in email communication on the phone with all of the different vendors we use, but it was nice with Beeline to kind of sit down face-to-face and talk to them about, hey, so like what's coming up and what are you guys working on? What can we look forward to? So one of the upcoming additions to Beeline includes badge swipe sign-ins, which I've been dreaming of for a while. How nice would it be if somebody could just come down with their university or hospital badge, swipe in on a kiosk, and that would automatically like log them in. So that's, I guess, the goal that Beeline is. It's the next upcoming thing. And iPad evaluation and debriefing tools. So if every instructor, how much easier would that be if instead of having to sit them down at a computer or a laptop or in the computer lab, if you just handed them an iPad while they were watching, they could make notes and fill out evaluations on the spot. So, and again, I know that sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'll just quickly go through my goals that I had for the lab with Beeline. So, like I said, utilize Beeline to its fullest potential. If we've got this great software, we really want to be using it to its fulfilling, like just using it to its potential, and all of the features it has to offer. Also, regardless of whatever AV system you're using, in terms of data collection, it's really nice to be tracking your users and your audience that's coming down, your learners. So what we have done with Beeline is we work with human resources in the hospital to implement what's called the LDAP. So it's taking all of the job codes for all the hospital employees like nurses and doctors and medical students that come down to the sim lab and importing them into Beeline so that we can they're already a user on Beeline, we can just click their name and assign them to a video or a session. And lastly, and this goes for everybody because there's so much research involved in simulation, start compiling data, which we're working to do. And it's nice to have whether you're using SurveyMonkey for evaluations or Beeline or any other software, or even a paper evaluation. It's nice to have those. Like I said, you might not have Beeline. Another wonderful AV system, EMS, was also sponsoring the conference, so they were there, able to answer questions as well. I obviously, using Beeline in my lab, I signed up for the Beeline seminars. And next we move on to Moulage, which is another fun, more artsy topic, which I love. There was IT, there was theater, there was simulators. It was just had something for everybody. So to start with, the first workshop I went to for Moulage was ballistic gelatin, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mythbusters. You should be, but it's a great show. They use ballistic gelatin a lot. And what's great about it is it's affordable, it's versatile, it's reusable. So you can buy a kit. I know it looks expensive at first, but just wait. You get a 28-pound gel block and an oven and thermometer. I'm sure that as a techie or a chemist, you could find your way around this too. But basically, you can melt down this gelatin, and you can use it for skins. You can use it for this next bullet point for an LP insert. I don't know if anyone else has lumbar puncture models, but they're very expensive inserts to replace. And if you fill in that little insert with ballistic gelatin, it is $6.50. And then every time it gets track marks and it gets used and starts leaking, you can melt it down and reuse it, and it's only 50 cents a refill. So it's things like this that, inside scoops at the conference, like, oh wow, we're, as SimTechs, we're really trying to find cost-effective, affordable, easy to use things, especially when you have, let's say, 20 people at a time coming in and doing lumbar punctures or whatnot. And along with Moulage, this cool new concept called vinyl printing. So what's great about vinyl printing is if you have, and you're probably like, what is vinyl printing? Vinyl printing is just printing using an inkjet printer and vinyl sheets. So what this means is you could print out a very specific picture of a rash, let's say, for this rare disease that you really want the learner to come into the room, to look at the patient's arm and say, wow, he has X, Y, and Z, very distinguishable. Or whether it's a specific wound, laceration, whatever it may be, you can print that out. It's quick, it's easy, and it's specific, and then you just wrap it around the mannequin or your arm, and you can use that as moulage. What's also nice about that is, in terms of suspending disbelief, if you have your learner come in the room, I know at least with us sometimes, if I'm trying to make a rash using makeup and Q-tips and Vaseline, it kind of just can look like a mess, and then the learner's like, well, that didn't really look like a rash to me. So it's another way to just make it more realistic, make it more specific. And if you have the resources, all you have to do is just print it out, and your 20 minutes of moulaging is now broken down into a minute of clicking your picture, dragging it, and printing it. So sorry if this is a little gory. This is my friend Brian Wahlberg. Hi, Brian. He was the commerce. This is his arm from one of the moulage workshops, just to show you how intense it really was. It was really fun. Every workshop, you really got to do hands-on things and play with it. And I know that looks almost too real. I promise you it's not. Just wanted to throw an example in there. So, two great things about the moulage workshops and moulage in general. Cost effective. Simulation equipment, whether it's inserts or skins or replacement parts, they're so expensive. So any way that we can find a way around it, to a replacement, is great. So like I said, with the ballistic gelatin, or different products you can use to kind of bypass buying a whole new insert. And then also just making appropriate case stimuli. So having something like that very specific rare rash or pattern or C-section staple, whatever it may be, you can really cater it to the case. So that's moulage. And that actually sums up the sample platter of all of the workshops I attended. I just want to reiterate how amazing it was to meet so many different people, and learn so many amazing things that directly apply to my workspace, that help benefit our lab, that help myself as a technician. All of the resources at the conference were great. They were hands-on. I got to talk with people from Valen, meet people from Laerdal, actually look inside mannequins, exchange business cards and create friendships, and go out with people after a long, really fun conference day of activities. Walk down the river walk. I had never been to Texas either, so that was a huge perk. And really just enjoy my time there. And I'm so thankful to everyone at North Shore for sending me, and to the SimGHOSTS team that made it happen. Lance, thank you so much for all of your work and help with that. I know you guys devote so much time and energy into this. And Ryan for reaching out to me, and helping plan the event. You guys are totally awesome, and I'm so happy to be a SimGHOST, part of the SimGHOST community. All of these resources that I've touched on are available on simghost.org, so please go check it out. Look at the videos, look at PowerPoints, check out really what went on at the conference. So lastly, questions or comments? So
Great. So thank you so much, Ben. That was really awesome.
I will.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no problem.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. So that vinyl printing thing, that was something I actually missed. I didn't get to see that one, so that's a really neat idea. I want to play around with that. Like you could do so much with that kind of a concept of taking something you want and just printing it out. I can't wait for the world of 3D printing to really get started, and we'll be fashioning mannequins out of designs that are freely available online. Not too far off from here. Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that the Timothy Clapper presentation in its entirety is available on simghost.org for free for anyone who's interested. So you just go to SimGhost 2013 and the tab at the top, and then go down to Laerdal keynote address, and you'll be able to bring that right up. I'll show you that in a second. But were there any questions here now? If you could chat them, that would be great. Any particular questions for Valen with regards to her presentation? I will go ahead in just a moment and unmute everyone, just in case there's not someone who might be on the phone and not at a computer that has a question. But before I do, I'm just going to steal the screen away from you real quick, Valen.
Yeah, go for it.
And I just want to show people that they can go ahead on my screen now. You can just click on SimGhost 2013. Oops. And go down to Laerdal keynote address, and you'll be able to watch Timothy Clapper, PhD educator's entire keynote, which covers a lot about team steps and communication, which are not just a communication methodology that applies to healthcare professionals at specifically, but can really be used by simulation technicians as well as a way to empower their voices within their own simulation program. So really great content there. You definitely can submit to present at SimGhost 2014 by going down to the now accepting 2014 presentation proposals in the blog. This will be more established in a 2014 page that's about to be built in the very near future, but you can submit a presentation. If you're interested in a certain type of presentation project, but you don't necessarily have the experience to present on it, you could go ahead and email Ryan, and he'll add it to the list of things that we're going to populate in terms of presentation ideas for the rest of the community. And then lastly, we do have a new testimonials video that's coming out. I think if I search for youtube.com medical simulation, and then I go to filters, I'm just going to search by upload date. We just put this out there not too long ago. There it is, number 1. This video will be shared.
Come on, give me a sim.
We'll share this video pretty soon.
SimGHOSTS cheer.
And it's kind of other testimonials from folks that also were able to participate in the event. So that was really fun, and to be able to hear a little bit more about what folks gathered there. That'll be on the website soon. Okay, so let's just see real quick here. Brian says, "What up?" Thanks for the shout out, Valen. Kirk says, "How do you obtain buy-in from your administrators when you're expanding your simulation program?" That's a really good topic in and of itself. And then Ryan asks, "What helped you get approval from bosses to travel to SimGhost 13?" So let's start with Ryan's question first. How did you get permission to get to SimGhost 2013 from your team, Valen?
Well, to be honest, Lance, having you come visit the lab and introducing what SimGhost really was to myself and Kyle Petty, who's another technician here, we were both very interested in learning more about the organization as SimTechs. And the manager of our lab, Pam Aitchison, was also very interested. So she, knowing how helpful it would be to further educate our SimTechs, reached out to our administrators and explained what the conference was, what SimGhost is, and just considering how much has already been invested in a sim lab. If you just emphasize, listen, the center's already built, we already have all the resources, why not further the education of the people that are going to be operating it, whether it's a SimTech, whether it's any conference, sending people to IMSH, but specifically for this is catered to simulation technicians. This is something that you can go to, that you will learn exactly what is encompassed in your job requirements and responsibilities. And you can network and acquire new skills, and especially even like with mannequins. I mean, I created this Prezi because I wanted to show the administrators and the staff here at our lab everything I learned and was able to see. I tried to take videos of the different lectures for Kyle, for the other technician, so that he could kind of get the inside scoop and see the lung replacement or the eye module, just because there's nothing, there's the SimGhost website, but there's nothing like going to the conference and getting that hands-on experience. And I promoted it, but I had no idea really how much I was going to learn. So I would encourage, if you already have the investment and maybe some funding, just say, listen, let's further this cause, and build upon the foundation that's already there.
Thanks, Valen. It's very kind. And I feel one of the major points that you should be able to point out to your administrators is that the cost of the registration for SimGHOSTs is far less than other medical simulation-based events. So we know that we're catering to a different salary range than, say, higher paid clinical educators. So we definitely try to keep our costs more appropriate along the lines of the salary ranges of simulation technicians, as well as working with hotels that maybe are not $250 a night, but much more affordable as well. So we try to create an event that's more affordable for our community, and I think that's another way to really kind of demonstrate some buy-in. That and it's specific to SimTech, so everything and everyone you're going to be meeting is going to be doing the exact same thing or very similar kind of roles and responsibilities to what you will be doing. And so I think that that's another key element. Everyone you meet in that space is understanding of your challenges because they've faced them as well. So I think there's a lot of great content there. Valen, any kind of suggestion? Yeah. Well, we're going to be working maybe with some international carriers next year for bringing it out. But Kaylee, I know that you're in the UK, and I think that we're actually going to be partnering with ASPE, which is taking place in November, this November. Some of the board of SimGHOSTs will be there. So if you're going to be attending that meeting by any chance, and if you're interested in more about that, get connected with me. I'll write my email address for you here. We can definitely start more of a conversations. So you don't have to take such a long flight. Maybe we'll come to you. SimGHOSTs 2014 will be taking place sometime in early August. We don't have a location set just yet, but we will be considering our options there, and trying to figure out and select and negotiate out the final space very soon here. So stay tuned to simghost.org for more information there. Lastly, I think we still have that question from Kirk. How did you obtain buy-in from your administrators when you were expanding your simulation program? I definitely have some thoughts about that, but let's hear from Valen first about her concept there.
To be honest, I really can't take credit for that. Like I said, the manager, Pam Aitchison, and Dr. Wong, Dr. Kirish, but the directors, that they honestly started off in a small closet with one sim man, and because of, they basically had research that showed how much it was helping the hospital, how it was reducing codes on the floor, how it was, improving, just showing statistically the difference that it's making in the hospital or with the students, whether you're at university, just giving them some numbers, I think, is helpful.
Yeah, I would agree. The more data that you're able to capture on a day-to-day basis, even if you're just only doing the simulation technician portion, or if you're doing some type of administration as well, or you're also the clinical educator, whatever data you can capture to show what kind of activity is happening in that space, so that when they come to you and they say, well, we want to either cut your funding, or we're thinking about giving you more funding, or we want you to do more responsibilities, you can demonstrate to them that the current workload is already maxed out for what they're requesting. And if they wanted to do more, well, then where is the additional time going to come from that they're going to need to make more of a financial investment? Alan Giannakopoulos was one of the presenters at Healthy Sim Admin, and that event kind of covers, a lot of more of an administrative kind of perspective. A lot of the administrators from that event spent some time talking about that very thing of gaining more buy-in and how to expand a program, throughout the utilization. So I would suggest, checking out that website if there's interest there in terms of more of an administrative type thing. There's recorded material there from the event, so there's a lot of resources that can be checked out there. You also, can really think about getting buy-in by demonstrating. One of the things I do is I point out the average salary range for, say, a nurse educator versus the average salary range for an IT technician-based kind of individual. Average salary range in the United States is around $93,000 for a nurse educator. Average for IT is around $65,000. So you're really talking about a different price point for an individual who is specifically trained to deal with technology and the kind of the issues that are occurring around technology. And so it makes more efficient sense to be, utilizing a simulation technician than a clinical educator for those specific tasks and duties. You really are asking someone who does not have the experience to do something that's costing you more. So Brian has a note. When I attended SimGHOSTS, the expectation was that I would return with new information that would help save the center funding, educate staff, and implement newly gained information. Is there an advantage for the SimTech that presents at a conference? Yes, we definitely provide a $50 discount right off the bat for anyone who's accepted as a presenter. So there's a little bit of an additional incentive there to be able to kind of come to SimGHOSTS. And then obviously, it's great for your resume and developing kind of more kind of community support and kind of presence in the community. Those would be the things I'd really talk about there. Sure thing, Kirk, no problem. I hope that answers your question, Brian. I'm not sure that it totally does. I'm going to go ahead and just turn on the microphones for any last questions that are happening here now, but please mute yourself if you don't feel like you're going to ask any questions. Thank you. So, Brian, did that answer your question?
Yep, you answered my question.
Okay, very good. Cool. So if there's any final questions, we'll take them over voice chat. Great. Okay, I think that's it. Well, thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Valen for helping to kind of communicate all this great information. I think it's really helpful to see, and especially helpful, I think, for Ryan and myself to hear that, wow, you walked away with so many great things. It's always so great to hear. We spend so much time in the chaos that, we read obviously every survey that comes in, but to have the support and that kind of your praise there really means a lot to us. So we really appreciate it. It helps to keep us going because to hear that we provided so much opportunity really is the goal, to specifically support those of us who are doing this new career field, because we feel like there's just not enough support out there, and that's why we built what we did to support this community. So we really appreciate it, Valen. Thank you, and thank you for everyone for attending.
Yeah, thank you, Lance.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Valen.
We're going to shut it down, and we'll, if you guys have any additional questions, feel free to email myself or Brian. I already put my email address in there, and Valen's email address is in the original post on both SimGHOSTS on Healthy Sim. You can read that there in terms of gaining contact with her. So thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.